Hello, we are Helios Solar Permitting, and today we're going to be talking about our issue and how we're trying to address the consumer adoption of solar panels. This is our team. We are a diverse group of individuals who are trying to conquer this issue. So today we're going to talk about the main issue at hand, which is solar permitting, our market research behind it, our value prop as a company, our main solution, and our future plans for this. And now we're going to talk about the core issue at hand with solar permitting.
So when tasked with developing a solution to encourage consumer adoption of solar, our team understood the importance of discovering real, tangible problems that people actually face. During this brainstorming phase, I was reminded of a conversation that I had with a former project partner where she was complaining about the convoluted process of solar permitting. This pointed us in the direction of permits, and in researching this issue, we found that there were three main problems with this process. The first one here is time. The permitting process is extensive, and it can take a long time to even source, let alone fill out and submit your permits. And then even after you submit them, there's often a long period of waiting before permit approval. The second issue that we discovered was regional diversity. Depending on what county you're applying for approval in, the permit requirements vary heavily. This results in tedious, region-specific regulatory challenges. And then the last issue that we discovered was permit denial. It is not uncommon for permit applications to be denied. When this occurs, the submitter must find and address any errors and go through the whole permitting process again. This has extreme negative impacts on projects, resulting in increased soft cost and extended completion dates. So once we understood the intricacies of this problem, we needed to ensure that the solar permitting market was attractive enough for a new entrant.
When we researched the US solar power market, we identified a total addressable market for solar panel installations in the US to be $21.6 billion, and the proportion of that comes from residential installations, which is what we're targeting here, is $14.4 billion. The serviceable obtainable market we have is $1.2 billion, which is the proportion of the installation cost that comes from permitting. When we look at the industry dynamics, some of the main statistics to point out here is that there are over 11,000 installation firms in the US, with more than half of those being based in California. This market also shows a 4.2 compound annual growth rate, where the top four players only have about 16% of the market share, showing that this is a very fragmented and competitive industry. On the cost structure, we see an average net profit margin of 5.9%, and the two main cost drivers we have here are purchases and wages, showing that this is a very people and labor-based industry. The customer segmentation exercise we made really helped our decision to go into this specific industry, where the solar installation is the sector that has the biggest amount of firms, 11,000, out of any of those other sectors we have here, and also has over a third of the proportion of the market when it comes to the revenue share. In the competitive landscape research, we were able to identify a couple of competitors that offer somewhat similar solutions to ours, but we see that out of those, big companies such as SolarCity and Sunrun are not really able to fully understand the nuances of every local market, while the smaller companies, which are the majority of them, they lack a better use of technology and resources to expand their business from a local business model.
So building off Enzo, a main focus as we navigate competitors is where we can provide value in such a large market. Current companies like Aurora help residents get approval for solar panel projects, and sites like Google's Project Sunroof help with the actual physical installation of those panels. And so we want to bridge the gap between these two areas with Helios, making the permitting process in between approval and the physical installation a smooth transition.
So now that we've analyzed the market, we can kind of figure out what is our initial customer. We wish to be a B2B business with our main customers being solar panel installers working on residential projects. These solar panel installers should have an internal permitting process so that we can optimize it. We want small to mid-sized companies based in California, since a large amount of solar adoption is seen in California. We want solar installers to have improvement in their turnaround times from customers committing to actually installing those permits by expediting their permitting process. And this was actually seen in Sunrun Vivint when they improvised the permitting process. They freed up $50 million. And that was for a large company. To imagine what could happen for a small company who is our initial customers. And with these customers, we can now talk about the jobs to be done. They are trying to install panels, and they are currently waiting on permits to be completed to actually get those panels installed. And they want fewer instances of permit resubmission, which is a very frustrating process, making this an important and unmet job to be done. This leads us to two value propositions. The first one being time. We want to make sure they're delivered as completed as possible, and we want to save them the opportunity cost of time, which is the salary of a permitting specialist, which can be from $48,000 to $66,000, which is a lot for the small companies that we are trying to target. Additionally, we want there to be first-time approval, so instead of going through that permit resubmission process, we want to have these permits done immediately, so that way we can just get that process moving quicker. And now we're going to talk about how Helios is planning to address this.
So our solution is to offer solar permitting as a service for solar installation companies. It can be deemed the TurboTax of solar permitting. We will achieve these time and cost efficiencies by integrating technology into all aspects of the permitting process. And I'll walk you through a database tool that we developed as a little bit of an example. So this database acts as an efficient, employee-friendly tool that reduces both the time and the costs associated with solar permitting, and it serves a few functions. So firstly, our database centralizes all permits sorted by county. As an employee working for Helios, you can simply enter the zip code of your target region and be met with all necessary permits for that county, as well as some relevant statistics. Also in the top right corner of our example video, you can see an example of our dynamic pricing calculations, which we will touch on later. Beyond permit sourcing, this tool enables the immediate submission of permits with an autofill feature, reducing manual data entry and potential errors. The database also tracks permit approvals and rejections by county. This enables solar installation companies to allocate their valuable resources towards counties with higher rates of permit approval. And then lastly, within this database, we also have a built-in demand function that collects usage data based on county. In the future, we plan to offer demand prediction features to these solar installation companies, which will help them develop targeted advertising strategies.
Yeah, so when we were starting to build our database, we started by building an entity relationship diagram, and we boiled it down to three separate entities: construction permits, counties, and electrical permits. So starting with construction permits, you have the construction permit ID, which tells you the permit type, the panel surface area, and the counties that it's required in. For the county ID, it'll tell you the zip code of the counties, the percentage solar, the permits required, and the number of permits that have passed. For electrical permits, for the electrical permit ID, it also tells you about the permit type and the counties it's required in.
So the next facet of our business is our dynamic pricing model that Rachel touched on earlier. So we're utilizing a dynamic pricing model that uses elements of machine learning regression to charge a premium based on several factors of where their specific permitting is. So look at how difficult it is to earn a permit using several predictors like the number of permits required in that area, the permit failure rate in that area, how flat that region is, and also the average time it takes a permit to pass in that area. These are all things that we're pulling from our database that both Nicholas and Rachel mentioned before. We will then use those factors to add our premium to the current market price in that region, and with this model, we hope to fairly price per case while maintaining a successful business model.
So permitting is often seen as a very gray, bleak, and boring process. Because of that, we wanted to go with a color scheme and brand that was light and represented brightness. So we used oranges and yellows representing the sun and solar with some blue for contrast and a modern font family. And since our software itself isn't customer facing, we decided to utilize this branding in a customer facing sales website, which has information on what our service is as well as the pricing.
And now we'll take a more narrow look at the market and inspect the growth of our business. So we sourced an estimate that projects installation growth in the US will double by 2028. This means an additional 4 million installations may occur in the next 4 years. In our launch area of California, this amounts to roughly 2 million new installations given historic and current growth trends, right? And we believe that our dynamic pricing model will produce profits between $25 to $100 per installation. From this, we estimate a market value anywhere from $50 to $200 million in potential revenues over the next 4 years. Leaping forward, let's examine some key aspects of our business that will act as tailwinds in our growth. Awesome. So we're going to have a conservative variable cost structure that will keep our costs low as we grow. It also complements our growth philosophy because we're going to expand county by county and state by state. And finally, we're going to automate onboarding for a shorter sales cycle, and we'll have nearly no third-party dependencies. Thank you.
So we are requesting $1 million, with 60% of that going to R&D and software development, 30% of that going to marketing, and about 10% of that going to legal. So thank you so much for listening to our presentation, Why Us and Why Now? So we are a diverse group of team members with a lot of capable abilities, and the market right now is prime and ready to go. So thank you so much for listening.